what is the importance of the metabolic output in terms of reference to marathon training? Okay, that's something that a couple of people have asked me. So here's how it goes. A marathon is going to take about 3,200 kilocalories of energy for me to travel my body 42.2 kilometers along a fairly flat road in Valencia. I think last year it was 3,159 kilocalories for the race itself. So yeah, in order for me to move my mass across that distance, I need about 3,200 kilocalories of energy, or kilojoules of energy to do that. Okay, so therefore in the race I have to be able to produce that amount of energy. Okay, and the more efficient you are at accessing, burning and producing that energy, then the better you're going to perform on the day. That makes sense. I think that's fairly straightforward. Everybody can understand that. Okay, so then you got to think, what are the factors which contribute to the amount of energy that you can produce, and how is it that you can produce more energy at a faster rate? Okay, so in our bodies, in our cells, particularly our muscle cells, we're going to specifically talk about for the sake of the marathon, we have little energy factory called mitochondria. Okay, and the amount of mitochondria you have in your cells determine how much energy you can produce. So if you're doing your race, you're running a marathon, everybody's like, well, make sure you dial in your nutrition and get your energy gels in, because that will make you run faster. Indirectly it will make you run faster. It won't make you run faster per se. It will make you maintain the speed that you're capable of. It won't make you any faster, because whatever the ceiling is, that's the ceiling. Now you'll probably fall under the ceiling if you don't take your gels. So taking your gels will allow you to get right up to your ceiling in terms of the amount of energy that you can produce at a certain amount of time while you're moving. Okay, so in order to push the ceiling up, it stands to reason if you have more mitochondria in your cells, then you're going to be able to produce more energy quicker. And not only that, you're going to be able to, because you're going to be running a marathon, you're going to be able to produce more energy from fat cells, which is always good, because fat molecules will give 9 kilocalories of energy per molecule, whereas glycogen will only give 4. So the more fat adaptive you are, the more able you are to produce energy from fat, the quicker you're going to be able to run, and the more you're going to be able to sustain whatever pace it is you want to do. Okay, so in order to make more mitochondrial cells, you need to have the ability to do that, the ability to make those adaptations, and that will only come from doing really low intensity aerobic exercise. So hence the reason why I'm doing a ton of walking at the moment. I'm just starting off my marathon training. The reason why I've been doing for over the last 2 months, pretty much walking a lot. I want to bring up my mileage this year and run a lot more average mileage leading into the marathon than I did last year. So I will convert some of this easy walking into easy running, but I just want to make sure that I have the physical adaptation to do that before I put too much stress on my body by asking it to have a big jump. You know, we talked about this 10% rule, which I think is fairly good for most people. But look, so long as you can absorb it, then you're totally fine at doing it. And one of the ways I'm going to make sure that I can absorb the training that I'm going to do is by just, over these last couple of weeks, just bringing up that metabolic output. So that brings us on to that. So each day, when I look back last year, my daily average last year was in around about, it was between about 950 and 1100 kilocalories of active calories burned each day in my body. Okay, so that's just around about a third of what I need for the marathon. Over the last 2 months, my active calories have been around 1600. So now I've moved it from just below a third to around about a half. So each day my body has been able to burn half the amount of calories that it's going to burn on the day of the marathon. Okay, and that has to stand to reason that now, at the beginning that was quite tough, but I'm feeling that it's quite easy now to get up around that 1600 kilocalories. And the reason is because of doing all the walking, there's going to be much more mitochondrial cells now in my body. Now it does take time for them to develop, so 2 months is probably, I have got a little bit of a bump off it, but I think over the next couple of months it will certainly go up more and it will feel a whole lot better. So yeah, there will be more bumps to get from that. And as I switch some of the running or some of the walking into low intensity running, that I think will give it another little bump. But yes, it stands to reason then to say that I now have a much better capability for my body to burn energy, to produce energy, to move me than I did 2 months ago, because I've been actively burning 1600 kilocalories a day as opposed to 1000 to 1100. And I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to try and get to, I was saying that I was going to get to 2000 fairly quickly, but I realized that that's a lot of work. So I'm going to try and get it to 1750. And then once I get to 1750, maybe for the 6 weeks, 8 weeks out from the marathon, try and get it to 2000. And then for the 2 weeks leading in at the temper, it will obviously drop. But I think I will have had made some really good adaptations since then. Now, that then brings us to the question is all you need to do a load of walking in order to make you a faster marathon runner? Absolutely not. Yes, there is the argument, there is the case that, you know, you got to go slow to get fast. That is true to a certain extent, but fairly quickly you're going to hit a ceiling. You will get quicker. So just doing, if I was just to do my normal running and add in a heap of walking, you'll get a little bit quicker, but you won't get all the gains you need, and you definitely won't be getting the best bang for your buck. So I've just started marathon training. It's a little bit different for me this year. I'm following the same program that I did last year because I wrote it myself. But what I'm doing this year is I'm taking down some of I'm reducing the amount of high-end VO2 max stuff I did. I will do a lot of strides, so that's kind of VO2 max, pushing it up there, but it doesn't have the duration, but it will just go to work on that leg turnover and keep that speed, whatever speed I do have in my legs, and maybe develop it a little bit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to work a lot more around that aerobic threshold, so that'll be running at around that 4 minutes per kilometer. I want to do a lot of running at that, and then doing my tempo runs, which would be probably around about 425 to 430. Do a lot of running in around that just to really develop that aerobic system. So doing that with the threshold stuff, and then just a little bit of the VO2 max, I think will be very good. I think it will come home to roost come race day. So it won't be just the case that I'm saying, you know, just do a whole lot of walking and you get a better marathon. You won't. What I'm trying to do this year is just trying to add on, just try and save, you know, a couple of minutes here and there. I think the walking might help with like an extra minute or two compared to last year's time at 3:11. I'm doing a whole lot of strength and conditioning this year. The strength and conditioning as well will help to develop a lot of those mitochondrial cells in the muscles. So between the two, low aerobic activity and strength and conditioning, so stressing those muscles with some resistance training, I think is the other way to go about it. So I think those two things alone will also kind of help me get another minute or two off the time that I did last year. Yeah, so we're already looking at a couple of minutes. And then throw in on top of that, then I'm going to do more mileage, another couple of minutes, and then throw in on top of that, then I'm going to work more on that aerobic speed. The threshold stuff is going to go up. Yeah, so I think all those things accumulated together should give me a good few minutes for me to play with and make that chance of getting that marathon PB a lot more likely. And that's pretty much it, what I'm doing with that marathon or that calorific output. Like I said, I'm up already to 1600, so if I can keep that and push that up to that 1750, I'm going to be well above burning half the amount of energy that I need on a marathon on a daily basis. And that is the theory behind, once it comes to race day, it'll be a whole lot easier for my body to produce 3,200 kilocalories worth of energy while I'm moving than it would have last year when I was only averaging about 1,000 to 1,100 a day. So that brings me back around to talking about the ceiling that I said you will hit with just taking the energy gels to make you run faster. So your body has the ability to go at a certain speed, and then that will diminish as your energy drops. And one of the things you can do in the marathon is to take some energy gels in order to keep your energy production a little bit higher, because you're going to be able to turn that glucose into energy for glucose goes into your bloodstream, turns into glycogen, and then you can use it as energy while you're in the race. So if you think last year I would have had X amount of mitochondrial cells in my body, in my muscle cells while I was in that race, and that was a finite number, and then they're all working away. So this year when I get to the race, there's theoretically going to be way more mitochondria in my muscle cells this year. So therefore, I'm going to be able to produce a lot more energy a lot quicker than I did last year. Now that's not to say that, like I said, that's going to be the key factor, but it is a very large factor when it comes to the latter stage of that race and you're just pretty much running out of energy, your body's scrambling. I've now laid down the groundwork for my body to be able to just have more fuel stations that can produce more energy, and therefore that shouldn't be the massive problem. I think I'm definitely going to have that nailed in come race day. So the biggest thing I need to work on now over the next 16 weeks is just getting that aerobic threshold come up, getting that lactate threshold to be a little bit higher, and getting that speed turnover. So doing those 3 things I talked about, working on that aerobic ability, working on the tempo runs, and working on the threshold runs, and then doing that kind of little bit of VO2 max stuff and getting those strides in. If I nail all that stuff, and there's no reason why I shouldn't, I should definitely be on for a marathon PB this year in Valencia. And that is the plan, and that is the reasoning behind the high energy output that I'm trying to achieve on a day-to-day basis. I hope all this makes sense, guys. Let me know if it did. Any questions, just pop them below. I'm gonna keep producing stuff like this, videos like this, little talks like this over the next couple of weeks as I'm training for the marathon. So yeah, if you like that, you can stick around for the journey, hit that subscribe and like button. And in the meantime, guys, you know what to do. Run far, run fast, and most of all, run sensible.